David has saved you from another joke. It's good to have you here.
Great to be here, Scott. Thank you.
Just tell us a little bit about your path, kind of your journey, and how you got here today.
Thank you, Scott. Well, I'm your typical Texan. I grew up playing sports and running around outdoors and wanting to be in the oil and gas industry. So my dad was in the business, and I got into the business, and I thought that's what all Texans did. And when I was working with you, actually, I was fortunate enough to lead a team that drilled the first horizontal wells in the world. And that sort of was the start of the shale revolution. And for the last 40 years, we've been investing in building companies, creating new inventions to make oil and gas come to ground more cheaply and more efficiently and more environmentally friendly. And 6 or 7 years ago, a lot of these companies we were building became difficult to sell. And so I stepped away from my firm and started looking at why didn't anybody want to buy things from the oil and gas industry? And it was a bit of an existential threat. In our business, you have to buy things, build them, and sell them. And if you can't sell them, it doesn't work very well. So as part of that journey, you were helpful on this, Scott. I convened 10 climate-facing folks and 10 energy friends of ours. You were one of those, Scott. And really tried to see what the climate side was saying about energy and what the energy side was saying about climate. And that's led me on this new journey of trying to bring energy and climate into the same room and work collaboratively, not towards net zero, not towards perfect, but sort of progress over ideology. So that's what OpenMinds is, and that's what I run full time today.
Yeah. It's a remarkable journey, and I think the vision is, as I was there in the early days with you, is kind of a more energy, less emissions vision, both, you know. And so talk about that a little bit. How does that dual challenge look?
Well, I really subscribe to energy as human flourishing. That's been my livelihood. I've seen it in action. I've watched you tell that story better than anybody. And so that's just a fundamental principle for me. But as I've learned more about warming and how it is happening and that fossil fuels are an important part of that warming, I've done more studies on that, and I've really enjoyed getting out of my own, you know, for lack of a better word, echo chamber. And so we got this group together. It's now grown to about 140 organizations. And the purpose of having energy and climate together is you sort of solve for the things that work and that are affordable, and you don't argue over the things that we don't know how to solve for yet. So we really came to a common mission statement of more energy, less emissions, as quickly and affordably as we can. So that's our version of net zero, and it's more practical, and it has industry and climate working together.
Yeah, and it's called?
OpenMinds. So part of the conditioning for it is you need to come, you need to learn, you need to listen, you need to respect, but you also need to act. Yeah. And we believed action is all about innovation, engineering, collaboration, that we can do a lot together if we're thoughtful and not sparring, if you will, but we're working together.
Yeah. Hopeful signs?
Really hopeful signs. And one hopeful sign is that the cost of so many cleaner energy sources has gone down dramatically in the last 10 years. Some of that's the result of innovation in Europe. Some of that's the result of policy around the world. Some of it's the result of cheap manufacturing in China. But the net result is we might have had 2 or 3 or 4 really affordable energy tools in our toolkit 10 years ago. Today, I think we have 8 or 9. And then I think in another 10 years, we're going to have 12 or 13. So innovation is really giving us a pathway to more energy and less emissions. And if you mix those properly, if you create them as systems, you can really advance things at a much faster rate. So that's what we're all about.
That's exciting. Several speakers this week, and I'll do the same, have talked about the whole population, those 4 billion people in the world who don't have as much, the emerging economies and emerging people. How does this get enacted globally, do you see?
That's a great question, and this is going to be a little wonky, a little mathematically, but over the 150 years of building our current energy system, let's say on average we've spent $250 trillion to build that. About 150 trillion of those dollars were spent on infrastructure, on pipes and wires and things that connect our energy sources to our energy uses. And two really big things have happened is we've learned how to make energy closer to where it's used, and batteries allow us to sort of, carry energy around in our pocket, so to speak. So these new technologies are giving rise to new hope, I think, in the developing world, that we can still use oil and gas. They need that for the sort of foundational base of their economies, but so much of the growth is going to come from stitching clean energy sources together with batteries, with electricity. And just a fun stat, the world grew its electricity demand last year by about 2.5%. 100% of that was supplied by batteries, solar, and wind. So the economic markets are working now, and if you're in Africa or if you're in the developed world, these are new tools that we can deploy thoughtfully.
The growth. There's still a lot of other things being added, but...
Totally, yeah, and look, we're not gonna phase out our current energy system. I don't even like to use the word energy transition.
Yeah.
I like to use the thought that we're gonna build for the future a more efficient energy system that we can layer on the top while the other ages.
As you think about emissions, which is certainly an important piece, we've talked about that this week, but there are other pieces too in the environment, the land and the air and its water. How does that all play together in your mind?
Yeah, and Scott, you tell the story as well as anybody, but anytime you're developing any natural resource, there's going to be consequences, whether it be to water or to local land use. And in the States and others, we're trying to build power lines that go through people's backyards. All that interrupts the environment, if you will. Those are local influences, and people can see them and touch them, and we've been really good at mitigating those because people can feel it and touch it and see it, and then locally they figure out how to make the water cleaner, how to make the air cleaner. But in climate change, it's a different animal because the emissions that we're putting into the atmosphere here today are affecting Africa or affecting South America, et cetera. So it's harder to see, it's harder to feel the local influence of it, but I really am optimistic that we can use some of that stewardship that we've learned around local influences and apply them to this global challenge. It's a little more squishy and hard to see.
Right, but as you say, systems, those things all interact with one another at a variety of scales, and most of us, whether we should or not, think locally. We tend to act locally. So it's really important to blend those, if you will.
Totally, yeah, and I don't profess to be an expert on local environmental issues. Most of the focus of our work is on this sort of global challenge of more energy to take more people into economic prosperity and to extend lifespan, health span, while also sort of buying insurance against the future warming effects that are clearly happening. So I think of it as solving for affordable energy today and buying insurance for a rising temperature in the future.
Interesting, yeah. Well, put on your vision hat in the last minute or two that we have and look out a decade. And let's do it regionally, if you could. How would you see kind of reconstruction? It's a word we've been using a lot this week. You've been here in the US and the EU with these kinds of ideas.
That's great. Well, I'm a bit of a copycat and I'm a flaming optimist. So I look around the world and I see the good that every part of the world has done. In Europe, you all have really adopted the most stringent environmental standards around energy consumption, and you've, because of that, become very good at energy efficiency. That's really been the pioneer and the legacy that I think Europe's going to lead. I think in China, because they're so concerned about national energy security and they don't have a lot of access to their own oil and gas, they have really pioneered lowering the cost of renewables. And in the States, we have natural gas in the shale revolution that has really transformed the global oil and gas industry and made it cheap for anybody to have access to gas. So I think we can learn something from each of those different key regions. Africa is going to be an entirely new laboratory, but my simple way of thinking about this is let's take the best of what we're learning from each of these regions because they are different, and let's put them together into a common system, and let's work together. Let's not work in silos. And I think we can bring more energy. We can bring less emissions. We can bring a more stable outlook for warming that is just what we want to leave our kids and grandkids with.
Yeah. Well, David, thanks for being with. The time goes quick always.
Thank
and
you,
I really
Scott.
appreciate our dialogue.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Great to be here.
Yeah.